New laws are about to come into effect in New South Wales which will limit the number of firearms shooters can have, ban straight pull, pump action and lever action firearms, not just shotguns but also rifles, impose onerous new requirements on gun clubs and remove your appeal rights. Now these laws will have a devastating impact on shooting in New South Wales and elsewhere. Now the lawyers are getting involved to take these laws on. Now, the new laws have not come into effect in New South Wales yet, but they will in the new year. There are 2, possibly 3 legal actions being mounted. Now, I know many of you will have trust issues after donating to Kate Fantinel's fundraiser earlier this year, but I'll address this a little bit later because the conditions that led to that don't exist here. Now, the first fundraiser is by McDonald Legal, and this is by a guy called Richard McDonald. This fundraiser is on GoFundMe, and the link to that is in the description of the video. You'll note the link there to the New South Wales Firearms Dealers Association. So that is something worth noting. Richard gives a bit of a description in a general sense about what it is he's looking to do. He's saying that the legal team will challenge the unfair scapegoating of lawful, compliant firearm owners and licence holders. But there's not much else on that description. Richard has advised me that there will be more information that will be posted to his website on Christmas Day. So by the time you see this, it should be up there. The website is mcdonaldlegal.com.au. So check that out. And a link to that is in the description to this video also. Now, Richard has also advised, given a bit more information on his Facebook page, where he says, I am currently exploring options for a class action to challenge this legislation, including proceedings in the Supreme Court and, if required, the High Court. So note that this is a class action matter. So the second action is by a legal firm called Terra Australis Legal, Limited, based in Queensland, and I'll show you their fundraiser, which again I'll post the link to this in the description of the video. Now, Douglas gives more information here about what it is that he's proposing to do. Now, one of the things that you'll note is he's talking about a High Court challenge, which is under the Australian Constitution. Now, the Australian Constitution normally applies to matters that relate to the powers of the Commonwealth and other things. We're talking here about laws that come up under the New South Wales legal system. But as has been explained to me, there is a linkage that ties back into the Australian Constitution, which is a very interesting angle. I can't talk about it here because what Douglas has also said to me offline is that there are rules regarding what you can say when you're looking at filing High Court actions. So I'm going to go strictly by what he has released and not what he's actually elaborated on. But if we have a look at his fundraiser, you will note that further down he talks about this being about poor policy and a fundamental breach of process and principles. So these are the sort of angles that he's arguing, that the laws that are unconstitutional, and as I said, there is an argument for that they were ill-prepared, and that the laws are financially catastrophic, which I think we all know. And again, there is another tie-in to the federal, to the Constitution there. Now, he says that he's looking to file an injunction and a High Court challenge. An injunction means that he's going to the court to ask for an immediate stop to the laws, because obviously a challenge about laws could take quite a long time, but injunction's an immediate thing. So I'm very keen to see how that goes. If we go back to his fundraiser, now bear in mind he's asking for $7,000, and I'll come back to that a little bit later. He says the initiating application fee is $3,300, so there's half the money going to that. He talks about the need to engage constitutional cases, being King's Counsels and Senior Counsel. And then he also talks in the next sentence about the estimated costs for hearings, preparation and court time range from $150,000 to $500,000. Now, I did say that he's aiming for 7 at the moment. Obviously, this is the first stage. So once we get the matter in court, I imagine that we're going to be hearing a lot more about, first of all, what the arguments are, but also what you can do as a shooters to support this. Also says in his GoFundMe description that he is participating in this on a pro bono basis, which means he's not taking any charges. He says the money will only go for disbursements to barristers and cases who will carry this matter through the legal system. Now, I guess that's one of the differences with Kate, who won't pay for anything else. Now, he also says down the bottom very critically, and I will come back to this a little bit later on, that there is an urgency about this. He says that the timeline for these laws is short, that is challenging them, and that the window to challenge is now. That's because when you look at legal actions, there are usually time limits attached to that. And so if you procrastinate, if you sit on it for too long, you lose your right to challenge. So that's why both fundraisers, the one out of McDonald Legal and this one, you need to look at supporting them now and not, in a week's time or whatever. And look, put $50 into both and let's hedge our bets, because as I said, there are issues that will protect your money, and I'm going to go into that in a second. Before I do, there is a third GoFundMe raiser I've seen coming out of Victoria that also talks about a High Court challenge, but this is not put out by lawyers. It's obviously put out by a couple of shooters who are very concerned about what they're seeing, and they want to engage, counsel and challenge, but they haven't talked about what their basis is, and that's not a criticism of them. I'm not a lawyer either. I wouldn't be able to do that. But I'm just saying you've got the option here of two fundraisers by lawyers who've already done this work before, and that to me is something that probably it really attracts me to supporting them. Now, let's talk about trust. As we know, Kate Fantanell earlier this year raised $178,000. She promised to launch Supreme Court action to stop the new gun laws in Western Australia, and that's what the money was to be used for. She also said there was a pro-firearms lawsuit, and as we now know, and no such lawsuit exists. There's not going to be any court action filed over there, and we also know that she did commission some legal advice. She did commission a couple of letters out of that money, so obviously there's been money spent, but we don't know how much. But we also know that at Easter she ran away to Texas.
This is history, and this is why I talk about it, because I'm a journalist.
Now, there are three real consequences to that, which is probably why a lot of shooters might otherwise be a bit shy of donating. One is that the money, at least an amount of that $178,000 appears to have disappeared. The second is that shooters did not get what they needed at the most critical time. They did not get any legal actions filed in WA. They needed that to obviously stop the laws, or at least send a political message to the government that shooters won't take this lying down. The third consequence is it destroyed any trust that shooters had in giving money to a pro-shooting cause, and you can't blame them. Now, we needed to address it here because the Kate factor isn't here. In this case, both lawyers are practicing lawyers in their jurisdictions, which is Queensland and New South Wales. I've spoken with both lawyers, and they're both putting the money into their trust account. Now, there are significant penalties, as you're probably aware, for misusing trust account monies. It's jail territory. That's what it is. Also, if both did the wrong thing, or either did the wrong thing, they would lose their practicing certificate, which means they can't act as lawyers, and they would lose their business. And that is if they act unethically or illegal. And that it can include, fraudulent behaviour. So that's why I'm saying that shooters need to trust these two fundraisers, and they need to support them now. As I said, put $50 into both, and let's see where they go, because the cost of these new laws is horrific. Now, links to these fundraisers are in the description to this video, so please make sure you check them out. This is not something we have the luxury of sitting on for weeks at a time. We don't have that time. You need to donate now and let the lawyers look after the filing of these matters. So we'll be covering exactly what happened in Parliament and what has come out the other end of that in our next video. And we'll also cover in a later video about how shooters can help kick the Minns government out at the next New South Wales State Election. So stay tuned, and don't forget, if you like our work, then why not support us for just $3 a month by becoming a supporter on Patreon. It's easy and quick to do, and your contribution helps us keep this going. So look, that's all for now, and look, thank you for your time.